Assalamu alaikum, ya tens. Great. So today we're going to be focusing on the Battle of Hastings, and I know many of you are familiar with the main events surrounding this historical battle. So as a starter, I want you to look at these three images. I've uploaded a handout on the student portal for you, so you should have that available at the moment. What I want to do is I want you to focus on what are the connections between them. So the first picture we have is quite familiar if you're based in London. So I want you to look at this picture. So we have Big Ben. Okay. And the second picture is an illustration of someone. So I want you to think about what is the connection between the first picture I showed you here and the second one, and then the third one here. So in the chat box, I want to see if any of you can find the link. Off you go. All in England. Okay, that's a good point. They could be all in England. And what exactly do they show about England? Are they fighting? So in the painting, it does look like there is a battle happening, perhaps. Thank you, Adam. Anyone else? What do you make of the figure in this illustration here? What's your first impression of him? It seems like it's a long time ago. I'm not very happy. Yeah, he doesn't look content, does he? Like, thank you, Salam. And what makes you think that he's not very happy? Aisha, his expression. How would you describe his expression? The look on his face, good. A bit moody. So that's how some of us look first thing in the morning, I guess. His face. And what's the link between this man and this historical building? Does anyone know what this is? I'm sure many of you might have passed through it. Big Ben, absolutely. You can see Big Ben. And did he make it? Very close. It's in London. Can you put a guess on when you think it was first made? Does anyone know? So this is Westminster Palace. 1950, hundreds of years ago. Good. So Edward the Confessor, the last Anglo-Saxon king, he constructed the Westminster Palace, 1066, and we have here. Good. So Edward the Confessor, who died shortly before 1066, he constructed this building here, and this man is a painter called Ford Madox Brown, a 19th century British artist. And he was actually invited to an art competition because Westminster Palace was burnt to the ground in 1834, and a series of competitions were held. And Ford Madox Brown, this was his entry into that competition in Westminster Palaces. Sadly, it wasn't accepted. It was actually rejected by the council, and Augustin Pugin had actually designed the neo-Gothic structure that stands. So that is a painting, yes. So this is Ford Madox Brown's painting, which he entered at a competition to rebrand the Westminster Palaces. Okay, does that make sense? Are all of you following me? Great. Okay, so my question to you now is, why do you think Ford Madox Brown's painting was rejected by the council? Salam, any ideas? Political reasons, perhaps. Can you elaborate on that, Adam? Maybe it looked like a rebellion. So this painting, what exactly is it showing? Do you think it shows a rebellion? Hostages, perhaps? So what if I tell you the title of this painting and I'll see if it helps you? So this painting is called The Body of Harold. So some of you have woken up now. Oh, it shows the king dead. Absolutely. Which king? They want Harold dead. Good. Can you explain what you mean by that, Suleiman? Just type in, what do you mean by Harold? King Harold II. They want him dead. Who is they? Excellent. So we found our character. So this is Harold Godwinson, and if you can see him in the center of the image, and he's being carried by William's men to the top of Senlac Hill, where he was cut down by William the Conqueror, or at that time Duke William. Can anyone identify where Duke William is in the painting? White shirt. Okay, so do you mean the soldier who's carrying Harold, or do you mean the person higher up? The person that's excellent, Adam, the person at the top. So why do you think the artist, Ford Maddox Brown, why do you think he's decided to place William at the top in the painting? Excellent, Aisha, to show that he's more important. And therefore, going back to the council, why do you think they might have rejected this painting? It was excellent, Abdul Salam. Masha, spot on. They weren't on his side. Many members of the council, their ancestry wasn't Norman. Okay? Or perhaps they were Norman, and they didn't like the way Ford Maddox Brown was portraying the Normans and the Anglo-Saxons. So how are the Normans being portrayed in this painting? Abdul Salam, did he die by an arrow shot? Okay, we'll look at that in some more detail, but I'm really happy that you have some contextual information about King Harold. Strong and powerful, good. So the artist here, he's decided to use darker pastels for King William in order to vilify him. He wants to make sure that the Anglo-Saxons are shown in a positive light. And what else we can see in the bottom left corner, did any of you notice the vampire? Can you see it now? Aisha can. Abdul Salam, nope. Abdul Salam, where? If you have spotted the vampire, just type yes. Okay, so can you see it here? Zainab seen it, excellent. Hadn't seen it. What's the intention behind this? Why is Ford Maddox Brown showing one of the soldiers as a vampire? Not sure. To suggest they were evil, excellent. So if you look closely, what we have is, we have the Normans. The reason they were successful was because they were horrific and bloodthirsty, whilst the Anglo-Saxons, we can see the dagger is being planted into the back of this beast. And what that does is it portrays that the Anglo-Saxons were more humane in the methods of killing the Normans. Great. I'm really impressed by the inferences you made. So today we're going to focus on how did the Battle of Hastings end, and it's linked to the painting we've just looked at. And we need to, by the end of the lesson, identify and explain different interpretations about the Battle of Hastings. So Abdul Salam, was Ford Maddox Brown on their side? That's an important question, and I want you to think about that as we progress with the lesson. Does anyone have any questions for me before we move on? Okay, let's move on. Good. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, Abdul Salam. And now this extract here, it's from a famous source. If you've heard of it, just type it into the public chat box. Excellent. Bio tapestry. Aisha's got in one. Battle of Hastings. The Battle of Hastings is being shown here. Abdul Salam. Excellent. Okay, now, who is being shown in the source? So I want you to, I'll give you 3 minutes, independently, just look at this image carefully, look at all the various symbols, and I want you to tell me, what does it tell you about the Battle of Hastings? So I'll give you a few minutes, think about it first, and once you've formed your ideas, try to think more deeply about what conclusions you might reach based on those ideas. If you go. So think about how are they shown to have an advantage, Aisha? William's armed army had cavalry. Excellent. Okay, so let's hear some of your responses. Suleiman, they are at the top of the hill, so they have an advantage. Excellent. Which army do you think is at the top of the hill, Suleiman? William, perhaps William. What makes you think it's William? No, Suleiman's changed his mind to Harold. Aisha's spot on again. Excellent, Aisha. So Aisha said that Harold's men at the top, and that's correct. We know that because, historically speaking, the English have used the shield wall against the Vikings, and William, he was unique in the sense that he was able to fight on horseback, and that would terrify the English here. You can't see the facial expressions, but I'm sure they would have been terrified. How would you describe, so William tricked them, Aisha, can you elaborate on that? William tricked Harold's men to go down the hill. Excellent. And do you know the name of this strategy that he used? Charged up and then back. Excellent, by pretending to retreat, Suleiman. Spot on. And this is called a feigned retreat. And the idea was that defeat's imminent now, and we can't break through the shield walls. So what we'll do is we'll pretend to retreat, and in doing that, we hope that holes will emerge in the English defense. And they were very successful and with doing this. Excellent. Again, I'm really impressed by the amount of inferences you've been able to make, especially Aisha and Abdul Salam. Well done. Excellent. Let's move on. Okay, so now I want you to visualize how it must have felt to be both a Norman soldier, but also an Anglo-Saxon. So, and here's the view from the English had as they looked down from the top. The Normans probably formed the battle line, and somewhere in between the trees in the center of the picture and near the tree on the left. So on the 14th of October, 1066, 3 weeks after their victory, the English army took up position near Hastings. Wasn't it Cowdebeck? It was Senlac Hill. Yes, Aisha. Okay. For the next task, I want you to look at the battle plan here. What are your thoughts? Who had the advantage according to this battle plan, and why? So if I can ask Suleiman and Aisha, if you can unmute your microphones and tell me your thoughts, please.
William had a bigger army and he had cavalry.
Excellent. William had a bigger army and cavalry. How do you know his army was larger? On Aisha, that question to you.
You can tell by how many rectangles there are.
Very good. So the amount of rectangles that are present, good. Who do you think has the advantage then in terms of numbers?
Definitely William.
Definitely William. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so William does look like he has the advantage.
Harold has an advantage too because he's, well, yeah, Harold has an advantage too because he's at the top of the hill.
Very good. And what advantage does that give him, being at the top of the hill?
Can shoot arrows down the hill.
Very good. And so he's shooting arrows down the hill. Do you think it means that he's going to be more accurate or less accurate?
More accurate.
Excellent.
Yeah, more chance he'll shoot.
Aisha, Do you think he has a better chance to strike the Normans? Okay, good. And what other advantages? Thank you, Aisha and Abdul Salam. Can someone type in the chat box? Gravity will help. Absolutely. How will gravity help? Think about it. If you're at the top, if you're running up a hill, I'm not sure if any of you have less energy. Excellent. So it's about conserving the energy. This battle doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. So William, he needs to conserve his energy against Harold. Very good. Okay, I think we made great inferences from this picture, and I particularly like Abdul Salam's point about energy, and that shows that he's put himself in William's position, and he's tried to think about the long-term strategies that he might be using. So for the main task today, we're going to look at a clip from the BBC, the Battle of Hastings. What I want you all to do is jot down the main outline of the battle. So what happened at the beginning, what happened during the battle itself, and finally, what happened at the end of the battle. I'm going to ask random students to share ideas with the class. So make sure you have at least 5 points to share. Okay, we'll stop the video there. Okay, now can I ask you to share your thoughts in the chat box? How do you feel about the Battle of Hastings? Can I ask for at least 1 point from everyone? An arrow shot Harold in the eye. Thank you, Suleiman. What else happened? Imagine if Harold had not died, it would have changed the course of history. Absolutely. It was a pivotal point. What would have that meant, Adam, if William didn't kill Harold? How would that have changed history? Actually, Harold's army just came back from the Battle of Stanford. Very good. Do you know where Stanford Bridge is, anyone? From Aisha. Not sure, sir. So Stanford Bridge, it's not the one in Fulham, in London. It's actually close to York, in the north of England. Okay? And the reason why they were there was because the Vikings, if you think about it geographically, they're based in the Scandinavian areas, which is from the north. So they went there. So also Chelsea had a stake home against Harald Hardrada. Absolutely, Harald Hardrada, the Viking, the king of Norway at the time. And he had been killed. Do you know how he died, Aisha? Absolutely, Abdul Salam, by an arrow. He was shot in the neck by an arrow. And Harald Hardrada, he's a really interesting figure. He cared a lot about his legacy. So he used to write gruesome poetry about the way that he would kill his opponents. And he would have some charming names for his battle axes as well. So if you want to do further research on that, I would recommend it. An arrow to the eye. Can you tell me how do you feel about the Battle of Hastings? Do you think Harold deserved to have been killed? Do you think it was going to happen anyway? Do you think this outcome was foreseeable from the beginning or not? Yes, because William has a bigger army. Absolutely, he does have a bigger army. And not only that, unlike Harold, he hasn't had a fight before that battle, so he's not as tired. If Aisha, I think it was Aisha or Ahmed who told us before that they had fought at Stanford Bridge and Harold had lost a lot of men there. Okay, so it meant he was exhausted as well. William was lucky because he was stuck in the south of England. Actually, sorry, in the north of France, in Normandy. The wind wasn't changing, so he couldn't sail away. Absolutely. So didn't Harold send men away for Harvard? Absolutely. Some of his men, the housecarls and, sorry, the thirds, the Thirds were farmers, and he had to send them away to farm on their land. So William, what happens is the wind eventually changes to his side, and what he does is he goes to Saint Valery and he offers prayers. Him and his wife Matilda, the rule of the Duchy of Flanders, they pray to God, and then eventually the wind changes in their favor and they land in Pevensey. So for William, he's pretty fresh, unlike Harold. So everything was going against Harold. Absolutely, it seems that way. It seems that perhaps William had the upper hand. But Harold, however, if you look at England, his family, the Godwinson family, they actually own most areas there. And in fact, Harold's brother, Tostig, he had volunteered to fight William instead. But Harold, due to his nobility, he actually said, no, I've been chosen as the King of England by Edward the Confessor, and I should be the one who's leading my country. Okay, so I think that even though Harold had a big advantage, I think he still would have lost. Why, Aisha? Elaborate on that. His men were tired, absolutely being exhausted. Remember, Stanford Bridge to Hastings, it's a long walk. In fact, half of Harold's men, they were left behind. And he didn't have like a weapons. Excellent. Okay, now can I ask one of you to summarize your notes on Battle of Hastings? So Suleiman, can you speak through the microphone and summarize the battle for us, and then we'll move on to the next task.
Battle of Hastings was more advantage to William had a more advantage of Battle of Hastings because he hadn't just come from a battle, so his men wasn't tired. His men weren't tired, and he had more men. If he went to a battle before, he would have lost some men.
Absolutely, they lost some men. Excellent. And which battle was Harold coming from?
Harold came from the Battle of Stanford Bridge.
MashaAllah, excellent and well done. So he's come from Stanford Bridge, and now he's fighting William. So what happens in battle itself? Can you explain the outcome?
Harold had one advantage because he was at the top of the hill, but then he had lost men and William didn't. So
very good. So he's at the top of the hill, and what do you think? What do you think about his horses? Do you think they can match up to William's one?
No, they wouldn't, because because it's a long walk from Stanford Bridge to the Battle of Hastings.
Excellent, Suleiman. Thank you very much. Okay, so those of you who know that William's men, they had this one advantage, and that was his men were on horseback. He had invented the stirrup, so he was able to fight on horseback. And the only possible example that I can think of between the horses that Harold had and the horses that William had is the difference between a Ferrari and a Nissan Micra. So think about it like that. They would have absolutely been petrified. So did not Harold's mother tell them the rest? What do you mean by that, Ahmed? Yes, she told them to rest. Good. Thank you. So the battle took place. So 3 battles took place in 1 year. We had the Battle of Woolford Gate, the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and the Battle of Hastings in 1066. And that's the key date that I want you to remember. Okay, now for your next task, in the chat box, can you just justify what you think is the main reason, okay, for Harold losing the Battle of Hastings? So William, him and his archers, they shoot Harold in the eye, and you can say on mic too. Absolutely, Abdul Salam.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I think the biggest advantage William had, he had many advantages as Harold's men were tired and stuff, but I think the biggest advantage was that he formed 3 lines, which was very new to the English people, and like he had first.
Do you think those 3 lines caught him off guard?
Yeah, definitely. Especially because it was new to them, and they they didn't know how to deal with it. Whereas what the English people did was very known. Whereas Harold,
Very known, absolutely. Thank you very much. I like how precise you were with the information that you shared with us. The 3 lines, that was absolutely pivotal as well. Thank you, Abdul Salam. Let's move on. Okay, so can we just have one other person share their reasons, and then we'll move on to the next task. From the strong line, but the mistake. So you think strength of his organization of his army is at the top. Ahmed, can you tell us, just go through these 5 different reasons and tell us why you've ordered them in the way you have. Ahmed, yeah, you talk in the mic, absolutely. Okay, Aisha, just quickly wrap it up for us, and then we can move on.
Okay, I think that the main reason is William played a trick on Harold. I mean, that was a pretty smart trick, and it was really well planned too.
I agree with you. It was better planned. And why is it more important than the strength of his army?
Well, because as we have seen in plenty of other battles, it isn't just the strength of army. It's like the weapons you have and the technique you use.
Excellent. It is. It's a multifaceted reason. So we've actually seen that it wasn't just down to his strength, as Aisha rightly said, but also he had to have organized his army correctly. He had to have made sure that he had used the Feigned Retreat on Harold, but also luck was on his side too. And that's what I want you to think about. Had the winds not changed in his favor when he was in Normandy, or had they changed in his favor, and he had arrived earlier at Pevensey than when he did, could that have changed the outcome as well? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll wrap it up now, and I want you to do the plenary exercise. So what have you learned about the Battle of Hastings today, and has your perception of William changed? So write 3 sentences in the box. Don't worry about the pictures. If you want, you can upload that to the student portal, and then 1 question that you want to take away with you so you can research further. For this task, I'll give you 1 minute. Off you go. William was pretty smart and organized. Abdul Salam, you can't take her answer. William was more brainier. What do you mean by brainier? What's another word you could use for that? I wrote it before her. Okay, I'll let you off there. See if you can come up with another point. Even though how William had better weapons and had better army, excellent. And could you tell me 1 question that you want to take away with you and research further? So let me help you start. Qadr plays a big role. Absolutely, it does. SubhanAllah. I think that's a great point, Adam. So perhaps I would like to find out why William's horses were more stronger than the English. What kind of horses did he have? Okay, if I can get 1 question from each of you before we leave, and we'll close the lesson then. His mother told them to stay at her house. I didn't know that. I would like to find out more about what name he gave. My question is, what happened next? Absolutely, Adam. Because they just came from battle. I'm not seeing enough questions. I've only seen Ali and Adam asking questions. Great topic, thank you. You've been great students today. I have to say, I'm really inquisitive and And I really hope you go away now and you read more on this topic. Okay, so the book that I would recommend is by a historian of Northern England called Mark Morris. And I'll type that into the message box for those of you who are interested. So Mark Morris, The Norman Conquest. Okay, so that's further reading for you. I hope you've all enjoyed the lesson today, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.